Welcome back to our house. We have a very special guest today. I'm so excited. The author of our May book club pick here. This is Glorious Mothering, Mrs. Sherry Hayes. And she is definitely level expert when it comes to mothering. She is the mom of 15 children. She is a wealth of knowledge and just such a blessing to the homeschool community. She gives out all this free content and freebies. She has a channel and a website by the name of Mom Delights. And her message truly is how to be a joyful, peaceful, carefree mother. So welcome. Thank you so much for doing this interview.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, how long ago did you write this book?
Well, actually, I started writing that book probably about 2 or 3 years ago, but I didn't really get serious about it until just before Christmas this last year.
So when did it come? It came out like around Christmas time?
Yeah, I think just before Christmas. Yeah.
So I love this book, and I hope everybody watching this channel, please make sure if you haven't read it this month to read it. I just loved it. I always kind of doggy earmark things that I really want to revisit and go back and remember. I don't know if you could tell, but like every other page is doggy eared. You know, there was just so much, just great stuff here. So I have some questions to ask you on the book. Want to just jump right in. Okay, the big takeaway, the big aha moment, life-changing for me when you wrote about mom guilt, which is something I know probably most moms deal with, especially late at night when it's quiet and you're just thinking about all the mistakes you made during the day, right? And so you kind of bring it up in a different light, how it's not so much that we're being so humble and it's about repentance, but rather just kind of going over and over like that. It's self-centered, it's pride. And that was a big aha moment for me. Can you talk a little bit about that and explain that?
Sure. Something just popped into my mind about, have you ever heard of Brother Lawrence? He was like a monk way back, like a 1400 or something. And he wrote to this one man, and his letters were compiled into a book called Practicing the Presence of God. And what this elderly monk said that he practiced the presence of God to where he did everything in God's presence. And he got to know the Lord so closely that he understood how God works forgiveness. And what he said is that he knew that, if you already know you're a sinner, right, then you already know that you're not going to automatically be perfect. And so God knows that too. So what you do is you go, well, Lord, I messed up. That's my nature. Well, I have a new nature, but you understand in this body, that's what I'm going to do. It's only by your grace that I do anything different. So you already know that. That's old news to you, right? So I don't have to go over and over and over and over and over and rehash, because what that is saying is, somehow I'm going to reach up to perfection, but today I didn't, so I messed up. It's not like that. It's like I'm already imperfect. So let's just accept that and look at Jesus and move on, because Paul the Apostle said, looking to Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. I had this friend, and I used to go to him for counseling, right? And every time I'd get so upset and I'd say, I just can't do it, I'm messing up, I don't want to be evil, he'd say, look at Jesus, Sherry, look at Jesus. And he would get me back on track. Not looking at us. We're supposed to be looking at Jesus, not our perfection. He perfected already for us.
Yes. And I love how you talk about that there's only one person that was perfect on earth. It's Jesus. So why are we holding ourselves to this standard where we just have to be perfect, right?
Actually, that puts us under like a law. The law brings death. The law is supposed to tutor us that we need Jesus, right? But if we bring ourselves under the law of perfection, then that brings death in our lives. And actually, that causes us to do worse. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because we're all never able to meet, and so we have this condemnation and this guilt, and we are actually meaner moms in the end.
Yes, exactly. And you've been a mother for a long time, so there's nothing you can think of, right, where you're thinking, that mom guilt that really came in handy with this situation, or that I'm really glad that I tortured myself all those years. I'm sure you don't have that example, right?
It's not productive. It doesn't do anything for anybody.
Yes. Exactly. You know, I love how you talk about in the book how you have like this wild woman within. I can so relate to that. You're constantly having to rein her back in. So I love that. Can you just talk a little bit about that? I know for like you said, you were not like planning, to be this large family mother. It wasn't in your plans. And can you talk a little bit about that? How it's just that it's just yeah.
So, and when I became a believer, I was 12 years old, and then I, kind of grew up and got discipled, and I decided that God was calling me to Russia. This is Iron Curtain time, to go bring smuggle Bibles into Russia and to be, one of those kind of people. So I went into the army because I could learn Russian, but I ended up learning Czech. But all kinds of weird things happened. So that, having a large family was not in my plan. I mean, even though I was a Christian, it wasn't in my plan.
Yes.
So my husband and I, we had our first baby, and that was really great. And we had another baby, and then we thought, well, this is really neat. And then we read books where, it could be a really godly thing. And we say, yay, because it was already in our heart. But see, we didn't know that, right? Because no one talks about that as being like a really godly thing to do. In fact, most Christians think that's the most horrible thing you could do, is bring children into the world that are going to be, a blight on, the earth's surface or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you're not going to be able to serve God if you have a lot of kids and on like that. You hear the whole thing. And so it really wasn't in my plan, for sure. So that's like, maybe that's kind of like why God made me a wild woman. I would think that was okay. So like we kept saying, yeah, this is okay. We have, yeah, this is okay. We kept saying, no, this is fun. So anyway, yeah, I guess that's being a wild woman, I'm sure.
Yeah. So for, like I'm a first generation Christian, so many things are just new and you think you have to fit this mold and, but like you explained so well in the book, it's really not about us. He's the one molding us and doing everything. We're just like, here I am, use me. It's not like we have to fit this certain stereotype to be this certain kind of mom. Is that right?
Exactly. I mean, we're just not, one mom might be like, I have my daughter, my oldest daughter. She has 4 children. 3 of them are boys. And I tell you, she is rough and tumble. And she, these 3 boys, they keep her going and keep her energized. And she's really happy with that. So she's not the dainty mommy. Like, I think I'm more of a feminine dainty mommy than she is. But I tell you, God, I mean, she's a force to be reckoned with. You don't mess with her. Okay. So that's the kind of mom she is. And so, and then there are other moms like, they're always baking cookies and they have their frilly apron. That's kind of my mom. I know you don't believe it because I was in the army, but still, I was the girly girl. Okay. So she and I, but we get along so well together and we really appreciate the different styles that we have. So, it's not just one way to be a mommy, of course.
Yes, I love how you talk about that in the book. So you talk about also how, giving it to Jesus, laying your burdens at his feet. And I always, hear this, but you really give like practical things to do to really release it. You're not just saying it. Like, for example, you had write it down and then tear it up or burn it and just to let it go. And I love that. So any other tips or thoughts to share with us, how you can really just release all those worries that you have in life? And you even talk about how the more kids you have, the less worry you feel, which might surprise people. Can you talk about that?
Well, I think over the years, what you do is with each child, you have to learn that there are certain things God wants you to take care of. And if you don't take care of those, then you are not being responsible. And there's certain other things that if you try to take care of all this stuff, then you're really stupid. Because there is no way. When Jesus was on the earth, he was one man. That's why he had to go to the Father and send the Holy Spirit. Because he couldn't be everything to everybody. He only had 12 close friends, if you think about it. Okay, yes. So there is no way, no physical, spiritual way that God expects me to be everything to every child that I have. And I have to learn to release those children into God's hands. We have kids that don't live with us, they're grown up and they're messed up, okay? But I don't carry that. I pray for them and I pray in the Spirit and I pray for them, but when I pray, I don't pray, oh God, this child is this child is this. See, that's just worrying, right? Like we worry God. That is not productive. What I do is I say, Lord, here's this child. Give me a vision of what you want to do in their lives, and that's where I'm going to pray. And so I pray that. And so when I'm sitting there and I'm praying God's vision for that person, then I am not got more worry, more burden, more care. All of a sudden, oh, that's taken care of. See,
Yes.
because release that to him. Another thing is that I make a list. When I make my lists, okay, if I don't do this, I get in trouble. But when I make my to-do lists, when I like, if I find myself being really feeling like everything's crazy, I write down lists of my concerns. And then I say, God, here are my concerns. They're on this list. These are yours. And then I keep that. I date it, right? So then a little while later, I'll just go on and I feel so unburdened. I mean, and if it comes into my mind, nope, I gave that to God. I don't have to worry about it. And I have an expectation. This is so important. It's called hope. Hope is like an expectation that God's really going to do what we ask him to. So if I say, Lord, I don't know how to do this routine. It's not working. And I have no idea how to do the morning routine because it's crazy. But I am trusting you. As I'm going through this morning, you're going to give me creative ideas. And as you're doing that, I'm going to listen. And that's how I'm going to change it. So I don't try to have the answer right now, but I'll just start stepping out and moving out and I'll listen and he'll drop this in. Okay, put that thing over there. That's better. I'll tell this person to do that. And as I'm doing this, then all of a sudden, the problem is getting solved. So then I can go back to my list that was my to-do list, my concern list, and say, got that one done. And I check it off and I put a smile. And what that does is I go back over those lists and I say, I'm having a hard time, but look what God did here. He did this and he helped me with that and he helped me with that. And so it builds up my faith. So now I have more expectation because I'm building up. Like God is giving me a track record of his faithfulness. And what that does is every time another problem comes up, then I have a track record of his being faithful. So I'm not as worried. God did it before. He'll do it again. Corey ten Boom had this little saying, yesterday he helped me. Today he did the same. How long will this continue? Forever. Praise his name.
Oh, I like that. And it kind of sounds like muscle memory, like you're building up this muscle memory so that when you start to get into the, your trigger, then you just fall back on that. And it's familiar, comforting. You've done it so many times. It's a habit now. It's like muscle memory.
And it's like that. It's like, even if you start getting off track, as soon as you bring yourself back in, it comes back. And at first it seems like you'll never get there. Say, God, I want to trust you, but I'm still worrying. I'm still carrying, but just keep at it and keep at it. And after a while, it'll be so natural that it will feel weird if you do start worrying. Does that make sense?
Yes. No, that sounds so liberating. It sounds so awesome. I love that. So another thing that you talk about in the book that I love, because see, I'm the kind of person, like the Bible says, that esteems every day alike. I don't like the pressure of special days and birthdays. And I love how you talk about how in a Pinterest and Instagram world, it's okay to keep things simple, like simple meals, rotating simple meals, birthdays are simple. So
Yes.
How has this small thing, made a big impact in your life?
Oh man, I am just like you. I like things the same. I want the same routine. And when something gets thrown in there, that's when I have to practice all the things in my book.
Yes.
So, no, really, I mean, little kids, especially if you start them little and you're not trying to, give them the moon when they're 5.
Yes. Yes.
Kids are so simple. They're happy with the little things. I have, like, if you've ever heard of somebody who planned a Disneyland vacation with their kids. So they took them down to Disneyland, and the first day they were in Disneyland and they were waiting in all the lines and all the, everything is so fantastic. And so everybody's tired after the first day. So they all go to the beach. And the parents are sitting there trying to recover, right? And the kids are all playing in the sand. And so then on the third day, I've heard this over and over from so many people. On the third day, they're getting up and saying, so kids, what do you want to do? Do you want to go back to Disneyland or do you want to go to the beach? And guess what the kids say? They want to go back to the beach.
Yes.
Because there's only so much excitement and that we can handle at one time. And little kids especially, I've noticed if you do too much in one day, you end up with a really cranky, upset, out of control child.
Yes.
It's just overwhelming. So if we just keep it so simple, and we're just like that too, like Christmas. Oh, just don't talk to me.
I know. No. I know. I'm the same way.
If we can keep it we want to make special, we have to have special.
Right.
We want every day. It's nice to have special. But if we keep special within bounds, one or two toys, and everybody's like, wow, you got special toys, that's so exciting, and a little cake, and sing happy birthday. Maybe have the little kids make a banner, and we're done, and your day's special. You know what I'm saying? During the Great Depression, my grandmother, on her special day, they didn't have money for a present unless there was no money available, right? So my grandmother said on everybody's birthday, what they did is they got to choose what their favorite meal for dinner. No matter what it was, they got to choose their favorite meal. Now, of course, they didn't have escargot or anything.
Yeah.
Favorite meal within there. Okay. And they didn't have to do their chores all day. Everybody did their chores, and they sang happy birthday, and they made it. If they could afford it, they'd have a little cake, and that was happy birthday.
And they were happy. They grew up, they weren't bitter in their adulthood about it. They were fine. They were happy.
Oh, she was really appreciative of her parents, and she looked back on those years with great fondness because of this simplicity. And when there's nothing as special, anything works. It makes it so nice. So yeah, I'm like you, simplicity.
Yes, and it can be hard if I recently got off of Facebook, Instagram, because then you could start to compare, right, with the parents who are really going all out, and that causes even more mom guilt and all of that, right? So just don't even pay attention to it.
Yeah, it can be so hard. I mean, yeah, especially since so much of us are trying to supplement our income with some YouTube, with some blogging. And so what we do is we have these offers for these products. Mm-hmm. And so then we go on and on about, it might be a full boat curriculum. It might be all kinds of stuff for your kitchen or, all kinds of stuff. And so then we see the YouTuber, the blogger, the Instagrammer, and they have all these nice things. And we say, wow, I wish I could have that. But that's not really the reality of where their income is. That's because they got chosen to showcase. And I'm glad for that. I mean, if they're going to, I like them to do that. I like to know about products. I'm glad they do that. I am not knocking that at all. I'm just saying when we sit there and we look and we think, why isn't my life like that? It's not a real thing. It's not real. So.
Right. Yes, I know. And I'm very careful with that. And looking at things and thinking, wouldn't it be nice if I could do something like that? And then I really have to think it out. Is that the end goal where I want to go, the direction that I want to go? So many things are pleasing to the eye, but then you really have to think about, right, is this the direction where I want to end up? So, yeah.
But what are we really, do we want the perfect looking life and no peace? The Bible talks about it's better to have a little with peace than a lot with contention.
Chaos. Yes.
And I'll tell you what, in a large family, it doesn't take very much to get contention.
Yes.
You have to really guard that. You guard that all the time, I'm sure.
Yes.
Guard it. And, we have to keep it simple because anything can disrupt that flow. It's just like placid water, and you just throw a little tiny pebble in it, and you ripple, ripple, ripple. And so we have to be careful. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, really taking every thought captive, right? Like literally, we have to do that. So we're talking about online, and you talk about it in your book. Has you set up online time as a reward after you are caught up with your household and your real life relationships, which I love that, to make that the carrot dangling versus something you're using for procrastination, right? So what kind of guidelines do you have set for yourself? And you have 15 children, you publish books, you have a YouTube channel. So how do you balance that online hobby business, with your online time, all of it?
I think that's the distinguishment there. I hope that's a word.
Yes.
I think that what happens is some of us are online because we are actually making a living. Okay, I'm thinking about some of the bloggers that are single moms and they homeschool their moms. And so their online business is how they support their families. Mm-hmm. So they are going to have to take, and there are some two income, there's some families that it would be only a one income family, but it would have to become the mom would have to go to work if it weren't for what she does online. Now, if you look at it like that, that's not a hobby anymore. That's actually doing something to support your family. And in that type of situation, you may have to let a few things drop in your life you can't do everything. Right. So some of these moms, they might have to have more convenient foods that they eat, or they might have to have someone in help them clean, or there might be some things they have to drop in order to get that done. Some husbands do all the technical and all the camera and everything, so they don't have to do that. See, there are different trade-offs. But I think that if you're going to do it as a hobby, then you need to keep that hobby in its place. And
Mhm.
it should never encroach on like your relationship with your husband. I mean, first off, your relationship with the Lord. If you aren't having time to spend time with the Lord and you have this hobby and think, well, Lord, I can't spend time with you because I got to check on this and do this, there's something out of balance. It's going to catch up.
Yes.
If you don't have time for your husband and he's feeling, left out. And that, I mean, already with a whole bunch of kids, we're already doing that stuff. So, I mean, that's just one more thing. My husband is so supportive of me. He loves that I do this stuff. It makes him so happy. He goes out of his way, like he got me a studio camera, and he just does. But he'll tell me, and he says, "Honey, we haven't had any time together," and it's like, uh-oh.
Yes.
So I try to keep very strict boundaries on what place this stuff has in my life. And I have standards that I have. I have to make sure if my people aren't eating right, there's something wrong because of what I do. It's something wrong with that. If my house is always a mess, no, that's out of balance. If my kids are acting if kids get whiny and they act up a lot when they're not getting your full attention.
Yes.
And when I see that happening, I'm going, whoa, there is something out of balance. And I take these things and I go, Lord, I don't want my hobby, which really, it's not really at the level where I'm really making a lot. I mean, it's like 25 cents an hour, right?
Yes, I understand.
So I don't want to take that, and I don't want that to become something that interferes with the main job you've given me. Now, there might be a situation where I need to focus on that as part of income because things change in our lives. But at this point, this is what God's given me to do. And my primary job is to be a wife to my husband and a mom to my children. And so that's where it's at.
Yes. And do you find that, your hobby, the things that you do, it's a great outlet for you? Is that important for moms, you think, to find something?
Absolutely. Oh, no. All work and no fun makes Jane a really dull girl. And we have to, there has to be life coming from us and flowing out from us. And we have to have outlets, not just to our family, to others. When I say that, I don't want it to be out of balance, but, a mom who has time to do something creative that's not in her home is going to be a better mom than when she turns to do her stuff. Because I think sometimes we can get like in a bubble. And if we get too focused only on this area, we get kind of sick, and we are not really healthy. And we start we'll take little tiny gnats in our lives of people, and we'll project things on like our husbands and our children that really don't matter because that's all we have to do. And
Yes.
and it ends up making everybody more uncomfortable. And that's why I think everybody's really happy for mom when she has something like this to do. My kids are happy that I do this. My husband is happy that I do this. So they see it as a positive thing. As long as I keep it within those bounds, I think it's good.
Yeah. And so like you say, you have little things where, if you start to see things, oh, that's like the red alarm, the little bell. Okay, I need to kind of scale it back, Yes. So that's great. That's great advice. Now, talking about systems in the home, I love the straightforward way that you explain coming up with a system, each person, because it's different for each person, to think about what is stressing them out, what is the burnout, and then going hour by hour in your day and praying about it. Very important. And visualizing that scenario, what would feel great, what would make things go smoothly. And then you talk about having a family meeting about it. So everybody brainstorms, not just, you, the mom. So how important is it to get your children emotionally invested in your plans? Does that make a big difference?
Oh, does it ever? And when you do that, then they have ownership and they go, this isn't just about, I'm just not a cog in the wheel. I am the wheel. I am the machine. I am here. I'm important. So I'll say, okay, so guys, the morning isn't working. They'll go, yeah, Mom, you're right. I'll say, well, what things do you see that we aren't doing that we can improve? And I will listen and see. Part of it, though, when you have a meeting, there are two ways you can do a meeting. You can do say, this is how it is. This is what's going to change. This is what we're going to do. And so everybody's, so what do you think? They're not talk to you. Okay, so what you have to do, and this is so hard for some of us, okay, is you have to say, so what do you think? And you actually listen until that person is done telling you, even though you think it's dumb. Okay. You go, okay. And sometimes instead of saying, well, that's really dumb, I wish you hadn't said anything. No, you say, oh, well, yeah, well, that's interesting. Those are interesting points. And what do you think? And you don't say anything's right or wrong. You just let them have input. And then when they're all done, you say, what I think that what I'm hearing from you guys is X, Y, and Z. Is this right? And they'll say yes or no. And Mom, no, that's not what we meant. We meant this. Oh, okay. And it's a back and forth thing. Now, in the end, you're the one that makes the final decisions, and they might not always like that, even though you've allowed them all to have input. To say, I really understand where that's coming from, but I don't think that's going to work. Right? And and this for this and this and this. Now, in the end, you've got to make some decisions. Some people are going to be upset, and that's just the way it is. You have to be the mom. There has to be a clear leader. But everyone knows that they've had a chance to voice their grievances, give their input, so that in the end, you'll explain, well, can't do it your way this time, but maybe in the future we can look at that again when things change or something like that. And you've got to be really positive and bring people into your world so that they feel valued. Because when kids don't feel valued and they don't feel like they have any input that's any valuable at all to you, then that's going to shut them down. And they might be passive aggressive. Maybe on the outside they're acting like they're with you, but on the inside they really hate everything. They get offended, and then you lose them in the end. So.
Yes. You sound like you're just such a great listener with your kids, because they really just want to be heard, right? Just listen. I mean, we're living in a culture today where, moms are on their phones and like not looking at their children and having that eye contact and all those things, right? They really do matter for a child, just feeling heard.
Yeah. Well, God showed me that a long time ago.
Yes.
Like 3 little kids, and I'm a type A person when it comes to getting things done. I like to get things.
Me too.
And little kids are like, I'll be washing dishes, and I think, mommy, and I'd be like, oh, another interruption, But God said to me, Jesus said, if you give even a drink of water to one of the least of these, my brethren, you give it unto me. And I know there's a context where it probably didn't have necessarily to do with your child wanting to drink of water, but it spoke to me. God used it to speak. Like, this little person doesn't matter in this world. They don't have any voice. You don't have to listen to them. You could just do whatever you want to and just say, shut up and sit over there, right? But Jesus said that if I would listen, that little person wants something from me. I'd say, honey, what do you need? And maybe they just want me to hug. Maybe they're saying drink of water, but what they're really meaning is, please hold me. I'm so scared. I don't know what to do with myself, right? So you just hug them. Take the 20, 30 seconds to hug them. They get down. They're like that, that ever-ready battery bunny. They just take off running. They're fine. But see, if we ignore those little tiny things, those little tiny interruptions, what happens is they build up, and then we say, I can't stand to be around my kids. They're such a pain. Because they are pains, right? Because we find them. We don't pay attention to them. We don't want them to interrupt what we are doing as adults. And what we don't realize is that that's, by the way, that's water. Anyway, that's the sewage. I'm in the basement. So what we're doing is we are cutting off our opportunity to build this wonderful foundation of trust and love and understanding, so that later in life, you only get them little for a little time, and they grow up, and then you have to go back and try to repair that. That is hard work.
Yes, I'm sure. So do you find you really have to stay present in every moment? Like, because, you have a lot of things, I'm sure, on your mind and things about and deadlines and things like that. So do you find that you have to really be conscious of that, of just staying present moment by moment, minute by minute?
I think there are times when we need to be present, and there are times when we don't have to be present.
Okay, tell me when you don't have to be present.
I mean, no human being can be present 24/7 for everybody who needs them. Yes. So what you have to do is you have to say, okay, what are the times when I need to be present for this child? And what are the times? Because my kids, if I was totally present with my children every minute of the day, they'd say, Mother, go away. I need some space. Okay, Mom, I know you love me. But seriously, I could play Legos without you watching.
Yes, I totally get it. I understand what you mean. Yes.
So I think it's just like you have to walk it out as you're going through your day. There are times when God will like nudge you with his elbow, hey, you, wake up, pay attention. But there are other times when he's saying, let it alone. It's okay to have your space. Usually, but sometimes we have to carve out space, don't we?
Yes.
We have to carve that out. I mean, it doesn't automatically happen. I have to get up a little earlier than everybody else in order to have breathe, think time before the clock starts ticking and everything's going crazy. I have to have time where, now it used to be I did it during quiet time when everybody was taking a nap every afternoon. I had to carve that out or I would be crazy. But now my quiet time is in the morning where I wake up and it's quiet. No one's asking me a question. No one's, you know what I'm saying? It's just.
That makes a big difference, right? In starting your day that way with that quiet time.
Yeah, you don't always get that when you have little babies, though. You have to carve someplace else.
Yes. So that's how you do your me time. Do you go to bed early or do you stay up late? Do you make sure you get a certain amount of hours of sleep?
Oh boy, would I love to go to bed early. But see, when you when you have people on different schedules and as they grow up, like we have to pick up kids at work at midnight. So there's no going to bed early.
At midnight? Oh, wow.
So, and that's okay. I mean, I am so adaptable to what God wants in this season of my life. That's fine with me. I mean, it doesn't. It probably would have freaked me out years ago, but I'm so used to being up with babies at 2:00 in the morning. I mean, what is sleeping? No, I'm kidding. No.
Yeah.
So no, I have, God has helped me to get, like, I get an hour's nap every afternoon. So if I have to stay up late, that's okay. 5 or 6 hours, I'm older too. So you don't need as much sleep as you get older. But 5 or 6 hours is good for me. And then as long as I get a nap in the afternoon for about an hour, I'm good to go. It's like I have 2 days in one.
Yes, it's true. So, and I love how you talk about in the book how, you can accomplish so much before bedtime. Think of it as blessing yourself the next day.
Oh, yeah.
How can I bless myself tomorrow? What can I do? Which I love framing it in that way instead of I have to do more. Like I'm tired, I'm ready for bed, and I have to still like unload the dishwasher or something like that. So how big a difference is that in your day-to-day life? Do you still do that?
If I get away from that, I just drag all day. Drag. I mean, this is so, like, if you wake up and the sinks are clean and the floors are clean, the counters in the kitchen aren't dirty, and you've got your clothes set out, so you're not scrambling to find what you're going to wear. You've already had your shower, so all you have to do is basically do your face and hair, real quick. And, think about getting up in the morning and that's in place.
Yes.
Then when you can spend time with the Lord, when your kids wake up, it's not like, mommy, how come there's no breakfast? Where's the milk? We don't have any milk. Where's the cereal? We don't have any cereal. I don't have any milk and cereal. What am I going to make everybody? And then everybody's screaming, it's crazy, right? But you already had that stuff, like the night before. You're going, okay, tomorrow for dinner we're going to have this, so I got to set this out. You have to plan. It doesn't always work out perfectly, okay? But generally, if you can try to have a little step ahead, so when you wake up in the morning, you wake up with a fresh start, then you can get a lot of stuff done, and then you have your little nap, and so that when you do have to do this stuff later on, you're not as tired. I mean, I think nap. I think success is above and equals nap. I don't know.
Yes. Oh, yes, definitely. So, how many older children do you have now outside the home?
9.
9. Oh, wow. Okay. And then, so you're still kind of in the thick of it, but just tell me, does life slow down as you have more and more older children and they leave home? Does it slow down or it's more busy?
I think if we only had 9 and they all left, we'd probably be pretty chill, right?
Yeah.
But we still have 6 at home, and they're in various stages of all kinds of stuff. We just got finished, our 12th baby just got finished getting her license, and we got her a car. So that was, all that stuff with all the appointments and everything. I mean, it's just stuff, life stuff. And then we have some, like, took our daughter this morning to get her tooth fixed, and I have another daughter that's like struggling with maybe some gluten sensitivity issues, so we're like working on diet and just everything like that. So our lives, no. But my husband and I, we figure we'll never be empty nesters. We have accepted this fact.
Yes.
Our youngest is 10 and he's 63. So, I mean, the empty nester time is past already.
Oh, that's great.
Love it. I mean, we consider our last two babies that were born in my 40s to be the cherries on the top. So, yeah, we love having little kids around. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so this is kind of like an odd question, but I love asking this to people who are grandparents because it's amazing the responses that I get. My mom told me, is this true that you love your grandkids more than your kids?
Oh, I don't think I can say that from experience because as I've had my grandchildren, I've still been a mom. So
Yes.
when you have a large family and you've got to be a mom to your own kids, you don't grandparent the same way as the typical grandparent does it.
Very interesting. Yes.
So what you're doing is you're including your grandchildren in your current family with your children. So like in lots of situations, the aunts and uncles are the same ages as some of the grandchildren. So it's like playmates more than like the typical grandparent thing that we see now. And this is not typical for ages past, okay? This is not how they used to, because I've studied this a lot, because you can have a lot of grandparent guilt too, okay? You thought it was bad having mom guilt.
Oh no.
Grandparent guilt. So, anyway, so what I've done is I've researched this and I've looked at this, and what I've decided to do, and this is what my husband and I have decided to do, is that we are going to be there and we are going to be open and loving to our grandchildren, but we are not going to be the typical grandparents as we define them in our age. This is how they did it in times past. Grandma and grandpa, that's where they live. We go and say hi to them, right? But grandma and grandpa don't have to go to every event that they do. They don't have to, you know what I'm saying? If we try to, it wouldn't be fair to the children we still have at home who need us to be their parents. So.
Right.
So we still have to be focused on being the parents to the children we have, and then we are always here. We're always loving if there's some event, and that we're always happy for our grandkids, but we may not be physically available to be there at all of their events, or I'm trying to. I don't. Am I making?
I think about that a lot. How in the Bible, like Rachel or Rebecca, they never saw their families. Like they would give their daughters away, and they'd go to a far away, and they'd never see them again. And there was no Skype or anything like writing letters. Who knows? I don't think they did that, but just amazing.
Yeah, I think that if you talk to someone maybe in 1920, their idea of what a grandparent is would be very different. Grandparents they're kind of like fallback parents. In case something happened to the parents, the grandparents would be there. And the grandparents kind of fill in gaps sometimes, like if something happens in the family, the grandparents can help with the children. They can do stuff like that. But as far as being so involved in buying things and paying for things and all that kind of stuff, I mean, it's just not going to be feasible for us to do that. However, here's the cool thing, and this is how large families are not in a deficit. Our grandchildren have so many aunts and uncles that, so like we might be able to afford one present. They have 5, 6 aunts and uncles that want to give them things and do things for them and babysit them and everything. So see, there's the trade-off. So even though the parents, there's so many other people in this family that are able to give attention and help. So we've kind of multiplied ourselves in a way, even though we as physical grandparents can't be there like the typical, we have multiplied ourselves. So actually, I think our grandchildren have multiple benefits more than if we only had like 1 or 2 children. Is that? Yeah.
Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, out of my 4 grandparents, 3 passed away before I even got to meet them, but they had large family, like 10, kids. That, I mean, that's my family. I never felt like I missed out on anything because they were, I'm sure, in them and all of their children and all of that. So yeah, definitely, that's such a blessing. That's awesome. I'm glad you talked about that because I think people need to hear that.
Question. That's a good question.
So can you have a new course on your YouTube channel that you're putting out, and it's called Large Family Miracles, and I am loving it. So can you talk a little bit about what you mean by large family miracles?
Well, I think that, I don't know, in my mind when I grew up, see, because I only had 1 sister and I had a half brother, okay? And so what was portrayed to me about large families is they're always disorganized. The mom's always freaked out, you know, and they grew up and, you know, it's just like disarray and horribleness and stuff like that. And the sad thing about it is that can have, people will have those impressions no matter what you try to do. It's just going to be that way because it's unfamiliar, so people will assume the worst. However, on the other side, I do believe that there is a tendency in our own lives that we can foster that kind of an atmosphere in our homes if we're not careful. And so God has to come in and He has to help us do daily miracles. We have to have miracles every day. We cannot afford to live a regular life like everybody else because we will die. He gave me a whole bunch of kids because he thought I kind of felt, you know, kind of a competent kind of a person. And then I had 15 kids, and now I know I'm not competent. And you know, I have to constantly stay on my knees before God. I can't afford not to have a relationship with the Lord because things will wind down and they'll go to pieces. And the devil does not want me to be successful because we are living proof of that to being pro-life is a godly thing. That this is what God, He loves people. God loves people. And if you had all the kids that your body would give you, God would still take care of you and He'd still love you. So we are a walking commercial for pro-life, okay? And the devil hates us. He hates everything about what we do. Besides that, we tell our children that God is the creator and His word is truth. And so the devil hates us for that. And so if I don't get on my knees and pray for miracles every morning, I'm going to be I'm going to have my teeth fed to me because the devil's going to kick me in the mouth every day he can. So it's not, I have to have miracles. I have to live by miracles. And there are times when we're attacked in our bodies, we're attacked in our finances, and I have to stand with God for miracles in every area of my life. And large families have to have miracles. And that's why God has put on my heart to do this series so I can help other large family moms or moms in general. I mean, even if you have 3 or 4 kids, you know what I'm talking about. So we have to have miracles. We have been living on such a low level, and God wants us to know that there is a supernatural life He has for us on this earth, and we can walk into that.
Yes, and I love how you talk about how we really do have all the tools we already need. And we live in a society, you know, in a world where people are constantly looking for that Band-Aid, that little fix-it. What's going to be that one thing? You talk about how, you know, it's like when you're cooking, you have to put all the ingredients out. I love how you explained all that. And we have all of it. We just got to get those ingredients out. And then when we need them, you know, like the Holy Spirit will tell us what to use. So I love all your analogies with that.
Oh, so one thing that hits me about that right now is that, so what we do is we're having trouble teaching Johnny how to spell. So instead of taking what we have already and really focusing and learning, we go out and buy a full-blown curriculum to teach him how to spell, right?
Yes.
So that's what I'm talking about. It's like, so God already has something for that. We already have that we could use that would help. But instead, we have I don't know if it's like, we're like got a consumer mindset that we're trained this way. But like if we're having trouble in our kitchen is not organized, we go and buy a whole bunch of organizers.
Yes.
Right? Instead of taking what we have and just using what we have to its best advantage, we go buy things and we think that the buying things will help us. And sometimes it only adds to the confusion.
Yes. Or the clutter. Yeah. So you had mentioned homeschooling with the spelling. You have created a line of homeschool products. Can you tell us a little bit about them and how you homeschool your large family? And I'm sure in a very joyful, peaceful, carefree way.
Oh, yeah. I don't want to be hypocrite. No, all right. So what I did was I tried a lot of different things. When I first started out, I used full-blown curriculum. And that was really hard to do because I had my first daughter had some learning challenges. And so while I had like some of the kids, they did great with it, and other kids, and she wasn't the only one. I had other kids with challenges. And so when I tried to follow this curriculum, it was really expensive as you get like 6 and 7 kids and you're buying full-blown curriculum for each one. It gets more and more expensive.
Oh, I'm sure.
And besides that, I mean, if you got everybody doing a separate thing and it's like you got like 10, like five workbooks per child. I mean, it's just the workload is tremendous. And so I did lots of research and I found about Charlotte Mason. This was way back when all we had was like email groups, so we didn't have all this stuff. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have everything. I mean, so I found out about Charlotte Mason, how you could read a book and you could have your child read a book and just write a narration or tell you a narration on each chapter. And that was language arts. And I thought, whoa, this is crazy. And I learned that about unit studies and everything. So I went like full bonkers. I did some unschooling and all over the place. And I realized that, well, maybe some things are kind of missing if I only do this. So I've got to find something. And the Lord led me to McGuffey Readers, of all things. Mm-hmm. And McGuffey Readers are like, I took them and I used Charlotte Mason's methods with the McGuffey Readers. And it pretty much knocked out language arts altogether. It was reading, it was spelling, it was grammar, it was everything just in one little package. And it was amazing. However, it was kind of hard to, like, especially boys. Like, I would say, okay, now here's your McGuffey's lesson and here's a composition book. Put your lesson, do some copy work in your composition book. And they'd open it up in the middle of the composition book and they'd write their copy work that day. And so I'd say, well, so you did your copy work, show it to me. And they couldn't even find it. Okay. And so,
yes.
Okay. So what I did is I started making these lesson sheets where it had specific places for the kids to write their words from the lesson and their copy work and their dictation and their narration and everything. And so
and a little picture too, right? Sometimes don't you have that? Yeah.
Kids love to draw. So
yes.
I have to have places for them to draw, or else they'll draw anyway. So, so I put that in there, and then I thought, well, why not put these in books and have levels for people that other people could benefit from the same idea. So I have the lesson sheets for free on my blog, momdelights.com, and I also have these books that we compiled for sale on Amazon, and they're not pricey at all. They're very affordable because I know what it's like to have lots of kids to educate and very little money. So I wanted to make them as affordable as possible. So I have levels from beginning reader all the way through high school that you can take the McGuffey's readers and you can plug those into these books. And so that's one product. And another thing that I put together is gentle grammar. And gentle grammar, it goes along with the McGuffey readers, but it's like a 10-minute a day kind of a thing. And it's just for kids that you want them to be able to write narrations and write full sentences, but they don't know how. Like I'll say, just write a sentence, and my kids will go, what is a sentence? Right? So this is a gentle way to show them, okay, and it kind of lays it out, but without using grammar jargon, like use a noun and a predicate. And like a 6-year-old's going, right, I understand what a predicate is. No. So what it does, it shows them how to do a sentence without saying all that stuff. And it's just
right.
for kids. Yeah.
And then you, I know because we're doing RC and in the online bonuses, there's a guide that you wrote for Ray's Arithmetic. Do you still use Ray's at all?
I used to use that exclusively. I've kind of gotten away from it because I had some kids that were challenged in a number of different ways. So I probably should have stuck with that. But anyway, I went trotting around and I came back to the old books. So I'm back to the old books. And I tried some modern stuff thinking that this will, like I was thinking, they're going to have to maybe take a test. And so this will test prep them. And what it ended up doing is the same thing I talked about. It just made them like they could calculate on the paper and for the test, but they could not use this math in real life. It was not happening. And the raise gets them thinking so that they can go ahead and use that. It's more, you can apply it because you're thinking in math. You think in math, it becomes part of your thinking rather than a slap on a workbook page and you get that done and you do the test, you're done. It doesn't have anything to do with your real life. Because that's how most of us learned math, and then that's why we're in so much trouble.
So I get a lot of emails, and questions from moms. I think the biggest pain thing with homeschooling is just feeling like they're doing enough, feeling confident, and probably some of that mom guilt again. So you've gone through it all for all these years. What advice could you give ladies that are just wondering, am I doing enough? Am I preparing them enough for life?
Well, I think it goes back to that old saying. Let's see, you do your best, you pray that it's blessed, and Jesus takes care of the rest.
I love that. I've never heard that before.
Yeah. You do your best. You pray that it's blessed, and Jesus takes care of the rest. I think it's also like loaves and fishes. It's like, okay, God, so I don't have the sumptuous, wonderful meal for 5,000 people, but I do have these few loaves and these fishes. And if
Yes.
I pray and you bless it, then you can bless that, and it can take care of all those needs that I don't see, because we all have blind spots and we all have places that we're not good at or whatever. And it's amazing how your kids, especially as they grow over, if you've taught them to be responsible for themselves, that they'll fill in those gaps too. And they,
Yes.
and some people might say, well, your parents didn't teach you X, Y, or Z. Well, I'm going to tell you a little secret that may freak you out. Maybe it'll help you a whole bunch, but there is no school ever created on the face of the earth that teaches everybody everything they need to know.
Yes.
And when people graduate from high school at the age of 18 and they've had 12 years of public school, I guarantee you, if you ask them who the first president of the United States was, they might have trouble.
Yes.
I knew someone who graduated from high school, and we were going to go to the graduation party, and we were talking about our plans for 4th of July. And we were talking about how, that's great. I saw this thing about, the Declaration of Independence the other day, and it's going to be really appropriate for that 4th of July celebration. And this person said, you mean the 4th of July is about the Declaration of Independence? Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So we might be taking, maybe we don't think we've hit every part of everything they'll ever need to know, but that is not humanly possible. So
Yes.
Here's the main thing you want to teach your kids. Take responsibility for educating yourself.
Yes.
And here's some ways you can do it. I'm going to give you the tools. I'm going to teach you how to read and write and do the arithmetic, basic arithmetic. The rest is up to you. Now, I can be here to help you, but you've got to take responsibility for your own life. And guess what? You've given them the basis for a lifetime full of success if they'll take your advice.
I love that. And do you really kind of pressure them about what they're going to do after high school, all of that? What's
Not
your
at all.
approach with it all?
We just let it kind of unfold.
Yes.
Because when I got out of high school, like I said, I was gonna, learn Russian and go to Russia. And
Yes.
here, the mom with 15 kids. Okay, so everybody. I think we do that too much to young people. We pressure them and say, "Well, what are you going to be when you grow up?" Well, let's start gearing up for that. Well, let's start, and I know 11-year-olds that say they want to do all kinds of fantastic things, and so their parents go, "Oh, now we have something to focus on." So if they want to be a fireman, then they buy them fire engines, and they do everything with it. And then the next week, the kid goes, I think I want to be a policeman. So then we go crazy on being a policeman, and they say,
Yes.
I want to be a doctor. And so, by the time when they're 18, it still changes. So why pressure? A lot of people have become doctors when they were in their 30s, right?
Right.
So, if there's one thing that's for certain, is things are going to change. So what we do is we take and we let these things unfold. And as God opens, and here's the thing that counselors in public schools do not tell kids. Really, it's up to God. And it's what God is calling you to. So you might have all the plans in the world,
Yes.
but if God wants you to do something else, it's going to be according to his plans and not yours.
Yes. I love that. And I'm sorry, I keep asking you more. I could just talk to you for hours, but I'll wrap it up here. But just, for those that are thinking, I would love to have a large family, but they're just afraid and thinking, how could you do it possibly on one income? And what about college? And what about paying for all the weddings? And what about all the expenses? Just any final thoughts that you could share on that?
Yeah, you can't have it planned from the beginning how it's all going to work out, because you have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as paying for college, things change all the time, but there are so many different ways to pay for college. That's something you don't have to worry about every sec. Don't angst about that to where you're afraid I can't have more kids because I won't be able to afford college. And everything. So what you have to do is you have to say, just what we're taught as believers. You have to trust God for every step that you take. and we don't know the future. I mean, who could have planned this COVID-19 thing? Who planned for that, right?
Right.
And so we have to trust God. If there's anything we can come out of this situation we just came through, is that we have to trust God with our plans, and we have to trust Him for the future. And if God tells me today that He wants me to have this child, then this is His responsibility, not mine, right? God, you told me to have this baby. It's your fault. No, I'm kidding. So, no, if God tells us to have another child, then that's His responsibility. Lord, I am trusting you. We are becoming a living sacrifice. That is Romans chapter 12, when it says, offer yourselves a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God. So, which is your reasonable service. We should be the living sacrifice. He died for us. This is the least we can do. He should have every part of our lives. And if He says, Sherry and David, I want you to have another child, and say, okay, Lord, but remember, if we have this baby, it's on you.
Yes, it's so true. Just how blessed we've been. We just have 6 babies. It's the raise always comes like after the baby's born, not never before. Like that increase. And there's so many blessings that come, and we think it's just because of the children. It's not because of me and my husband. It's because of the children. God is blessing us for the children. But I'm curious how you deal with it. The criticism, because obviously this family, they look like we're crazy, right? When people come up to you and they say, oh, you must have your hands full, or are they all yours? What's your response to that? Are you positive and upbeat, or does it sometimes just kind of get to you?
Well, I think you have to like discern where that's coming from. Because some people, I have fun with it now. Like, I got 15 kids, and
I bet you do. Yeah.
I said, well, my daughters, they have this. Well, my mom, she had 3 daughters too. I was like, oh no, I have 11 daughters. Just happened today. No, but I have fun with it. It's like an entertainment for me. But but the thing, I try to look at the person who's saying it. Like, if they're just shocked and they're just making conversation, who cares if they have a goat or something. But if someone is getting into my business and they're trying to make me feel guilty, or they're trying to make me feel less, or, your kids didn't turn out perfect, and, you struggled with money, and, because I'm just going to be honest. You don't always have, you're not always like, we didn't have kids because we had lots of money. We thought, well, what we do with our money? We'll just throw it at our children. So we didn't have a lot of money to do all this stuff with. And we have struggled, and so people could point at that, but I don't really give squat diddle what they think, because I don't stand or fall before them. I stand or fall before my God. And as far as I'm concerned, everybody's got an opinion, just like they have shoulder blades. That doesn't mean I have to pay attention to it.
Yes. Even if it's people that maybe you really respect or trust in your life, because a lot of people, it's their parents that are saying, what are you doing? Like, having all these kids,
Jesus said He didn't come to bring peace, but a sword.
Right.
And when we follow Christ wholeheartedly, there are just going to be parts in our lives that people, even well-meaning people, they don't mean to be mean to us or anything. Sometimes they just don't understand. They don't get it. And so that's okay. But we're told we need to love those people, but we don't have to take their opinions to heart, because there's only one person we answer to. Elizabeth Elliot's Jim Elliot. He's the one that went down to the Alca Indians in South America. The Point of the Spear or something. They made a movie out of it. But she wrote a book called Through Gates of Splendor, and he wrote to her something. They would write letters back and forth, and he said, really, the only thing that matters is to be AUG, and AUG stands for approved unto God. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or says. We have to be approved unto God. And when we're approved unto God, He sends us this. There are people that we can agree with lots of times and we can talk to, but not very often. If you'll find people that walked with God and did the impossible for Jesus, they had very few people that understood what they were doing, especially early on. True. But when they were faithful, God met their needs, and we know that in glory, it's going to be a much different picture.
Yes, I love, that's wonderful. I think that's a great place to end it. And where can people find you? Your websites and all of that.
Okay, so I have a website, and it is momdelights.com. And you can go there, and I have a blog, and I offer a lot of free downloadable, printable stuff. And I'm working on a spelling thing right now. So hopefully I'll have free spelling soon. And because everybody's asked me about that. So, and then I also have a YouTube channel, and that is just plain Mom Delights, and you can find my videos there. I'm on Instagram. I'm Mom Delights 15 on Instagram, and I'm on Facebook. I have Mom Delights on Facebook. I have a Facebook page. So that's
great. So everybody take, and make sure that you guys also check out her book, Glorious Mothering. Highly recommend it. And they can purchase this on Amazon, right? Is it on your website as well, or just go to Amazon?
I find links to it on my website. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for taking this time and answering all my questions. Like I said, I could talk to you for hours and just ask you more and more questions, but thank you so much. And maybe we can have you on another time. I would love that when your spelling program comes out or something, talking about it. But
you know what I like about your channel is that when people go there, they're going to actually find something helpful that's going to add to their lives, and not just time wasters.
I hope so.
You have the information. I don't have much time to go on a lot of YouTube videos just to watch people clean their house. I want to know you have tips, you know? And so when I go on your channel, you actually have neat information. I've learned things from you. So
really?
Absolutely.
Oh, you're sweet.
So I'm really thankful for your channel too as well, and your website. And don't you have like 2 websites now? Or is it
yes, I know. You know how it is. You have so many ideas. You just want to put it all out there, but then you got to rein it in too. So yeah, just trying to balance it all. But yeah, I mean, it's like you have so much that you want to share, right? And you want to get it out there.
Gotcha.
I'm sure you understand. But thank you so much. Really, I'm just a product of, like we all are, right, of our different influences and how they shape us. And you're definitely one of those influences for me. So I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. So don't forget, everybody, check out Glorious Mothering. Read it if you haven't already. I highly, highly recommend it. And thank you again, Ms. Sherry Hayes, for being here.
You're welcome. It's been a lot of fun.